This is what's called a strap of $100 bills. It's 100 $100 bills stacked neatly together and wrapped in a mustard-colored seal with $10,000 marked across the front. If you put 10 straps together, then what you have is something called a brick worth $100,000. Stack 10 bricks together and you have what's called a bundle, $1 million. But how many Americans actually have $1 million? This is the question we're going to answer next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
How many Americans are actually millionaires? The answer to this question isn't as simple as it seems because it depends on how you define millionaire. Cash, stocks, bonds, rental real estate, your home, rare collectibles can all be considered in the equation when defining a millionaire. So let's find out what makes a millionaire in this country. For those of you new to the channel, hi, my name is Jeff. I'm a CPA turned author turned public speaker. I also have 25 years of financial services industry experience right here in New York. I started the channel in 2020 really at the request of my daughter, who saw me helping other family members with their financial information, and she said, "Dad, if you can help Grandpa, why can't you help other people?" And with that, the channel was born. Today we have over 360,000 subscribers, 60 million views, 5 million hours of watch time, and we would love it if you join our YouTube family. Simply click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time we post a video. We post 2 or 3 times a week. Now, before we jump into the information, let me source the data for you. This data comes from the June 2025 UBS Global Wealth Report. And it has a lot of great information not only about the U.S., but wealth across the entire world. If you're interested in the full report, I'll put a link in the description below so that you can download it yourself. All right, let's get into it. Now, just a few definitions first. We're going to zero in on how many people in the United States have a wealth number, net wealth number, meaning after debt, of $1 million or more. This includes billionaires, by the way, so 1 million plus means 1 billion plus. And because we're talking about the total number of people who have 1 million plus, including billionaires doesn't really matter because frankly, there's 1 billionaire for every 28,000 millionaires in this country. Next, this data is per person, not per household. A lot of the data that you see out there is published per household, particularly government data, but in the UBS report, it is broken down per person. And intuitively, this makes sense. If someone looking at this data is single, for example, and they're looking at a per household number, they don't really know what to do with that because a lot of times in households, there's one major earner and one minor earner, or one person who doesn't earn at all. Likewise, if you have a household that has 2 very big earners, it's hard to use that information if you're talking about per household. Say 2 really well-known lawyers, for example, who earn a lot of money and save a lot of money. So the cleanest way to look at it is on an individual basis. Third, the information is for adults only. Now, I know that there are a lot of really wealthy children out there who have inheritances, trust funds, and other sources of income, maybe childhood actors, I don't know, but those individuals are excluded from this calculation simply because the number is really, really small and it's actually not as easily trackable as if you're talking about adults. The report assumes that there are 240 million adults in this country. If you look at the census data, it's probably closer to 260, but we're going to use 240 for the purposes of this video because it's close enough. Next, the data includes the value of someone's home. Now, the rationale is that someone who has a home can sell it if they need to raise additional cash or take out a home equity loan if they need to raise additional cash. So it is convertible to cash. Also, there's no standard size home. We could take 2 people with the exact same amount of wealth. One could have a mansion and the other could be a renter, and both could end up in the same spot in terms of income if necessary. And because some people with a high net worth rent and others own, the folks at UBS just decided, let's make it simple and include the value of the home, whether or not somebody has a home. While this information was published in June of 2025, the data comes from the year ended December 2024. Finally, once we get this information on the table, we're going to answer the question that almost everybody asks next, which is what's the average amount of wealth per person in the United States? Because that's a better question, particularly when you're talking about a population of people that spans from 18 to 99, 100, 110, who knows? It's also a better question because comparing yourself to a benchmark that most people can't achieve or haven't achieved anyway is only going to make you feel bad, but looking at the information more holistically, comparing yourself to other averages might put you in a position where you can act upon that information. So how many Americans really have $1 million or more? The answer is 23.8 million people have a net worth, a wealth level of $1 million or more. That is 1 out of 10 adults in this country. But here's the catch. This is $1 million or more with an emphasis on or more. And the fact that 90% of the adults in this country haven't achieved this level of wealth skews the information quite a bit. One person could have a net worth of $1 million, another $100 million in this measure, and they're not even in the same economic class. One family relies on health insurance heavily, the other has concierge medicine. You get the point. So we need a second piece of data. What's the average wealth in this country? Using the same measures, individuals versus families, adults only, and including the value of someone's home. Now there's one final point when it comes to averages. There are two types of averages, the mean and the median. The mean is simply adding up the wealth of all 240 million adults and then dividing it by 240 million. That will give you the mean. And the median is the point right in the middle. It is citizen number 120 million and one. If we take those 240 million people, stack them by wealth level from lowest to highest or highest to lowest, it doesn't matter, and take the person right in the middle, the number that they have is the median. The mean wealth number of the 240 million people in this country is $620,654. Now, for most of you, this is the wrong number to look at. And the reason is because a few outliers skew this number way up. There are 18 centibillionaires in the world. 14 of them live in the United States. Now, what's a centibillionaire? It's someone who has $100 billion or more in net worth. You don't need too many of those to skew the number upward dramatically. The median wealth number, the amount of wealth that the person who's 120 million and one in that stack is $124,041. That's 1/5 the size of the mean number. Now, a few of you have astutely figured out that there are a number of people that don't have a net worth. In fact, they have negative net worth, negative wealth. They have more debt than they do assets. And according to the government, that's about 2% of the adult population, which is a really large number. However, those outliers are capped at what they can actually borrow. And while it's possible, maybe even probable, that after a lifetime of work and diligent saving, that an individual can have hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars in net worth if they do it right, the opposite isn't true. It's very hard to get into that level of debt, with one exception, and that is if you earn a lot of money and you manage it poorly. Think about Willie Nelson or Mike Tyson. Both of them owed over $10 million in taxes. I think Mike Tyson owed over $20 million in taxes to the IRS. Most of the time, it's thousands or maybe even inching into the tens of thousands, but not hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. That's why you see a skew upward when you're going from median to mean. One final point here, and this is supremely important. Take this information as interesting, maybe even slightly useful, but understand that everybody's situation is unique. And your situation may be vastly different than averages. And so if you feel really bad or really good about what you're seeing in this video, don't let this information change your view of your own finances. If you feel like you're off course, well, do something to course correct. But I'm a firm believer that regret is one of the least important emotions when it comes to your finances, but getting motivated about doing the right thing to make it better is supremely important. So wherever you fall, you're not a byproduct of some average on some chart somewhere. I've known people who've had absolutely no money until 5 years before retirement, and then their wealth surged because they made that their top priority. I've also known people who went into or were approaching retirement with a ridiculous amount of money, and then they blew it. They spent it all, and they went into retirement living on Social Security alone. The stories are vastly different from one person to the next. Focus on you and improving your situation, and don't focus on what others have or don't have. That won't help you. If you like this video, check out that video, Why Net Worth Skyrockets After Retirement. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.